So Spirit Airlines filed for bankruptcy today, and even though I'm no fan of Spirit and have outwardly made fun of them at every turn, this is yet another perfect example of how our trash bureaucracy meddles in free markets and has the opposite effect of what they pretend they're trying to do. Spirit is the 7th largest airline carrier in the United States, and back in March of this year, they were trying to have a merger with JetBlue, the 6th largest carrier, a extremely common practice between large airlines. So after a 17-day trial, the Gubmint decided to block it, and Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, called it a huge victory for travelers. Now, their reasoning for this was that on routes that JetBlue and Spirit Airlines overlapped, that they would remove one of those routes and then charge the higher price. And this was gouging consumers and forcing them to pay more. And now that it's going to go bankrupt, it's likely that there will be no flight there at all. In order to compete with larger airline carriers, smaller carriers have to merge. That way they can benefit from the economies of scale, reduced overhead costs, more efficient IT services, covering more locations, and then getting bigger corporate contracts because they can service everywhere that corporation needs to fly. This is exactly how the 4 major US carriers got as big as they got, by doing this exact same thing. So what happens now, and what exactly does this all mean? Why am I talking about this? Now, I'm no airlines expert, but I do understand business a little bit. So first, let's talk about what will happen next. Well, first, Spirit Airlines is a publicly traded company. So all the people, the individual investors, the pension funds, whatever, that held that position, they'll lose all or most of their money. Next, Spirit will start firing people, and a ton of people will lose their job. They'll start reducing routes and selling off their assets, planes, to pay down some of their debts. And then all the major players that likely lobbied for this decision will scoop up all of those assets, all of those planes, all of that stuff for pennies on the dollar. All those routes and hubs that Spirit serviced, well, there won't be as much competition there, so those prices can go up. JetBlue, who's been losing money ever since that merger got blocked, will likely face a similar fate, perhaps. Competition is what drives quality up and prices down. And by blocking this merger, the Justice Department will be reducing options, increasing prices, reducing competition, and likely making JetBlue face a similar fate, thus benefiting all the major airlines and securing their position at the top of the heap, in control. And what a coincidence, the major airlines lobby the US government to the tune of 10 times as much as Spirit or JetBlue. A lot of people that were only able to fly because of budget airlines like Spirit out of major hubs that were likely nearby where they lived and needed to go, well, now they'll have no flight at all, as they likely won't be able to afford to go with the major carriers, which is why Spirit existed in the first place. Now, most people won't talk about this or care about this because who cares, corporate greed, whatever, it's not that spicy, they don't understand, they don't care. But it is a perfect example of exactly how the bureaucracy meddles in the free market and ruins the experience for consumers. Because if not for a bloated, all too powerful bureaucracy, monopolies would not exist. The government creates monopolies. This merger would have likely benefited consumers tremendously, but was blocked under the guise of benefiting consumers. And if Spirit and JetBlue ultimately fall, it means there's only the big guys left. Again. But how they do this is how they do everything. Those 4 major players lobby all the bureaucrats, get this type of merger blocked. Now the 4 major players control the market, thus discouraging other airlines from trying to merge and trying to compete. But the problem is not that these large corporations lobby to insulate and protect their business. The problem is that some dweeb bureaucrat has the ability to do their bidding for them, to get paid themselves. That level of power is contradictory to free market capitalism. And it's an all too perfect and timely example of how an overly powerful and greedy bureaucracy holds us back from capitalism doing what it was designed to do. The people always love to blame capitalism, and they want to march on Wall Street when where they should really be marching is on K Street. These demons have been stifling our prosperity in all industries, not just airlines. And if people could simply understand this pattern, especially how it's playing out in real time, perhaps they would be more equipped and more willing to be vocal to talk against this happening to other businesses and sectors in the future. Hopefully in January, with new management and increased government efficiency, with a lot of smart people that understand business, these types of situations will become less prevalent. And America, and corporate America, can really do what it was designed to do, which is service demand, increase competition, reward people who compete, and in turn benefit the consumer and the economy as a whole. Your prosperity is always stolen under the guise of protecting you. Let this be yet another lesson showing perfectly that.